हाय गाइस। चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं। ओके, सो आगे हम लोग पढ़ने जा रहे हैं लेड पॉइजनिंग। ठीक है, हाय मम्मी। सो मोर इंडस्ट्रियल वर्कर्स आर एक्सपोज्ड टू लेड देन टू एनी अदर टॉक्सिक मेटल। ठीक है, हाय। So lead is used widely in variety of industries because of its property. क्या प्रॉपर्टी है लेड का? लो बॉइलिंग पॉइंट है, मिक्सेस विथ अदर मेटल easily to form alloy, easily oxidized and anti corrosive होता है. All lead compounds are toxic. Lead arsenate, lead oxidate, lead carbonate, lead carbonate are the most dangerous. हाय शशांक। सो लेड पॉइजनिंग पढ़ रहे हैं, तो लेड का यूज़ इतना ज़्यादा क्यों होता है? क्योंकि उसका बॉइलिंग पॉइंट बहुत कम होता है और वो तुरंत मिक्स हो जाता है, दूसरे मेटल के साथ अलॉय बना देता है और तुरंत ऑक्सीडाइज हो जाता है और एंटी कोरोसिव है, कोरोड नहीं करेगा। इसलिए उसका इतना ज़्यादा यूज़ होता है। लेड आर्सिनेट, लेड ऑक्साइड और लेड कार्बोनेट, ये तीनों जो होता है ना, ये हार्मफुल होता है। दीज आर टॉक्सिक, दीज आर द मोस्ट डेंजरस। और लेड सल्फाइड जो होता है ना, वो लीस्ट टॉक्सिक होता है। सल्फाइड जो है, सृष्टि मान लो एस, सो इट इज़ लीस्ट टॉक्सिक ना। इंडस्ट्रियल यूज़ क्या होता है? ओवर 200 इंडस्ट्रीज आर काउंटेड where lead is used. Manufacture of storage batteries, glass manufacture, shipbuilding, painting, pottery, rubber industry and several others. ठीक है, अब नॉन ऑक्यूपेशनल सोर्सेज क्या है? सो द ग्रेटेस्ट सोर्स ऑफ इन्वामेंटल नॉन ऑक्यूपेशनल लेड इज गैसोलीन. Thousands of tons of lead every day is exhausted from automobiles. Lead is one of the few trace metals that is abundantly present in the environment. Lead exposure may also occur through drinking water from lead pipes, chewing lead paint on window sills, or toys in case of children. सो मोड ऑफ ऑब्जॉर्प्शन क्या है? सो लेड पॉइजनिंग में अकर इन 3 वेज। पहला है हम लोग उसको इनहेल कर लेंगे, दूसरा है खा लेंगे, तीसरा है स्किन से। तो इनहेलेशन में मोस्ट केसेस ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल लेड पॉइजनिंग इज ड्यू टू इनहेलेशन, सूंघ के लेड को सूंघ लेते, ऑफ फ्यूम्स एंड डस्ट ऑफ लेड और इट्स कंपाउंड्स। ठीक है, इंजेशन मतलब खा लेते। पॉइजनिंग बाय इंजेशन इज लेस कॉमन अकरेंस. Small quantity of lead trapped in the upper respiratory tract may be ingested. Lead may also be ingested in food or drink through contaminated hands. ठीक है, और स्किन क्या है? तो absorption through skin occurs only in respect of the organic compound of lead, especially tetraethyl lead. Inorganic compounds are not absorbed through the skin. सो बॉडी स्टोर्स क्या होता है? द बॉडी स्टोर ऑफ लेड इन एन एवरेज अडल्ट पॉपुलेशन इज़ 150 to 400 milligram and blood level average about 25 microgram per 100 ml. हमारी बॉडी में कितना लेड होगा? 150 से 400 mg लेड है और ब्लड में कितना है? तो 25 माइक्रोग्राम पर 100 ml ब्लड में है. An increase to 70 microgram per 100 ml blood is generally associated with clinical symptoms. Normal adult ingest about 0.2 से लेके 0.3 mg of lead per day largely from foods and beverages. हाँ मम्मी। अब डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन इन द बॉडी कहाँ कहाँ डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होता है लेड? सो 90% ऑफ द इंजेस्टेड लेड इज एक्सक्रीटेड इन फीसीज. लेड absorption from the gut enters in the circulation and 95% enters in erythrocyte. आरबीसी में एंटर करता है. uh, it is then transported to the liver and kidney and finally transported to the bones where it is laid down with other minerals. Although bone lead is thought to be metabolically inactive, it may be released in the soft tissue against under condition of bone resorption. Lead probably exerts its toxic action by combining with essential SH group of certain enzymes. For example, some of those involved in porphyrin synthesis and carbohydrate ka metabolism. Lead has an effect on hi, Valentina Nappi. So, thank you. I really don't know how we add on Discord. I is really I don't know, but it will be very helpful if you subscribe my channel and notification will go. I'll send a notification. So if you subscribe my channel, it will be helpful. And now we are reading community medicine PSM. So we are reading a subject of MBBS, and here we are studying lead poisoning. All the occupational hazards we are studying. So lead poisoning is one of them, and so we are studying ki how is lead, which is a metal, how is it distributed. So first it is inhaled. Most commonly it is inhaled. Then it can also be ingested or it can be absorbed by the skin. Then it then goes to the RBC and then to the liver and the kidney. From there it gets deposited in the bone in inactive form, right? Then when the bone gets reabsorbed, then it becomes active and goes to the soft tissue and react with the SH group of the certain enzymes as well as carbohydrate. So what that will do, lead has an effect on membrane permeability and potassium leakage has been demonstrated from erythrocyte exposed lead. So what will happen, that RBC will then एक्सपोज, मतलब आरबीसी विल आरबीसी के अंदर जो पोटेशियम होता है ना वो बाहर निकल जाएगा. एंड वेलेंटीना नपी, you are from which state, which country? You don't look like Indian, you look like Mexican or something. Okay. So clinical picture. So what will be the clinical pictures? How will the patient present when the patient is having lead poisoning? How will the patient present? So let's see. The clinical picture of lead poisoning or plumbism, इसको plumbism भी कहते हैं. We also call it plumbism. Is different in the inorganic and organic lead poisoning exposure. The toxic effect of inorganic lead exposure are abdominal colic, obstinate constipation, loss of appetite, blue line on the gums, stripling of red cells, anemia, wrist drop, foot drop. The toxic effect of organic lead, पहले inorganic का अलग, we have different clinical feature of inorganic lead poisoning and different for organic lead poisoning. Hey Shashank, please comment if you are there. So what happens in organic lead poisoning? So organic lead poisoning are mostly on the central nervous system. Insomnia, headache, mental confusion, delirium, ये सब होता है. सो व्हाट इज़ द डायग्नोसिस, मतलब डायग्नोसिस आप कैसे करोगे? डायग्नोसिस ऑफ लेड पॉइजनिंग इज़ बेस्ड ऑन हिस्ट्री. ठीक है, यू टेक द हिस्ट्री की, अ हिस्ट्री ऑफ लेड एक्सपोजर. पेशेंट बताएगा दैट आई हैव द हिस्ट्री ऑफ लेड एक्सपोजर, कि मैंने पेंट खा लिया था या क्या कर लिया था. देन क्लिनिकल फीचर्स सच एज लॉस ऑफ एपेटाइट, उसको भूख नहीं लगेगा. इंटेस्टिनल कोलिक, पेट में बहुत दर्द होगा. परसिस्टेंट हेडेक, सर में दर्द होगा. वीकनेस. एब्डोमिनल क्रैम्प. कॉन्स्टिपेशन होगा. जॉइंट मस्कुलर पेन. ब्लू लाइन ऑन द गम्स, गम्स में हम लोग को ब्लू लाइन दिखेगा. सो इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू सी द गम्स एज वेल. और एनीमिया भी दिखेगा. देन लेबोरेटरी टेस्ट व्हाट वी विल ऑर्डर for the laboratory test. So we'll order coproporphyrin in urine. Coproporphyrin in urine, CPU बोलते हैं. Measurement of CPU is useful screening test. In non-exposed person, it is less than 150 microgram per liter. Then we will do aminolevulinic acid in urine. If it exceeds 5 milligram per liter, it indicates clearly lead absorption. Lead in blood and urine. So measurement of lead in blood or urine requires refined laboratory techniques. They provide quantitative indication of exposure. Lead in urine over 0.8 milligram per liter. Normal is zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.8 mg. Indicates lead exposure and lead absorption. A blood level of 70 microgram per 100 ml is associated with clinical symptoms. Then we will also see basophilic stippling of the RBC. ठीक है, ये 4 टेस्ट we will do. Basophilic stippling of the RBC is a sensitive parameter for hemoglobin hematological response. Then what are the preventive measures? हम लोग कैसे lead poisoning से बच सकते हैं? What are the preventive measures? So first is substitution. That is, where possible, lead compound should be substituted by less toxic materials. Then we have isolation. All processes which give rise to harmful concentration of lead, dust or fumes should be enclosed and segregated. Then third is local exhaust ventilation. There should be adequate local exhaust ventilation system to remove fumes and dust promptly. Then we have personal protection. Workers should be protected by approved respirators. Then we have good housekeeping. Good housekeeping is essential where lead dust is present. Floor, benches, machines should be kept clean by wet sweeping. Then we have working atmosphere. So lead concentration in the working atmosphere should be kept below 2 milligram per 10 cubic meters of air, which is usually the permissible limit or the threshold limit. So periodic examination of the workers. All workers must be given periodic medical examination, laboratory determination of urinary lead, blood lead, red cell count, hemoglobin estimation, and coproporphyrin test of the urine be done periodically, right? So Shashank, are you getting what I am telling? Please comment. So estimation of basophilic stippling may also be done. An expert committee of the WHO states that in case of exposure to lead, it is not only the average average level of lead in the blood that is important, but also the number of subjects whose blood level exceeds a certain value, 70 microgram per milliliter, or whose ALA in the urine exceeds 10 milligram per liter. Then personal hygiene. So hand washing before eating is important measure of personal hygiene. There should be adequate washing facility in industries. Prohibition of taking food in workplaces is essential. Then we have health education. Workers should be educated on the risk involved and personal protection measure. Then management. अब management कैसे करेंगे? So the major objective in management of lead poisoning are the prevention of further absorption, removal of lead from soft tissue, and prevention of reoccurrence. Early recognition of cases will help in removing them from further exposure. A saline purge will remove unabsorbed lead from the gut. The use of deep penicillin has been reported to be effective. Like CAEDTA, it is a chelating agent and works by promoting lead excretion in urine. Lead poisoning is notifiable and compensable disease in India since 1924. ठीक है. Then occupational cancer देख लेते हैं. यही 4 तरीके का कैंसर होता है जो कि जॉब में जाने से होता है. क्या क्या? स्किन के कैंसर हो सकता है, लंग का हो सकता है, ब्लैडर का हो सकता है, ल्यूकेमिया हो सकता है. यही 4 कैंसर है जो कि ऑक्यूपेशनल है. तो ऑक्यूपेशनल कैंसर इज़ अ सीरियस प्रॉब्लम इन इंडस्ट्री. द साइट्स ऑफ द बॉडी मोस्ट कॉमनली अफेक्टेड आर स्किन, लंग्स, ब्लैडर एंड ब्लड फॉर्मिंग ऑर्गन्स. स्किन कैंसर क्यों होता है? परसीवर पॉट was the first to draw attention to cancer of the scrotum in chimney sweeps in 1775. It was subsequently found that cancer of the scrotum and of the skin in other part of the body are caused by coal tar, X-ray, certain oil and dyes. Statistics now show that nearly 75% of the occupational कैंसर आर स्किन कैंसर. मोस्टली स्किन कैंसर बहुत ज़्यादा कॉमन होता है ऑक्यूपेशनल में. स्किन कैंसर आर एन ऑक्यूपेशनल हजार्ड अमंग गैस वर्कर्स, कोक ओवन वर्कर्स, स्टार distillers, oil refineries, dye stuff makers, road makers, industrial associated with the use of mineral oil, pitch tar related compounds. ठीक है. स्किन कैंसर सबसे ज़्यादा होता है. 75% सारे कैंसर का स्किन कैंसर इज़ ऑक्यूपेशनल. अब लंग कैंसर. सो लंग कैंसर इज़ हजार्ड इन गैस इंडस्ट्रीज, एस्बेस्टोस इंडस्ट्रीज, निकल क्रोमियम वर्क, आर्सेनिक रोस्टिंग प्लांट एंड इन द माइनिंग ऑफ रेडियो एक्टिव सब्सटेंस जैसे कि यूरेनियम, निकल क्रोमिएट, एस्बेस्टोस, कोल तार, रेडियो एक्टिव सब्सटेंस, cigarette smoking are proved carcinogen for lungs. Arsenic, beryllium, and isopropyl oil are suspected carcinogens. More than 9/10 of the lung cancer are attributed to tobacco smoking, air pollution, and occupational exposure. Now, bladder का कैंसर कैसे हो सकता है? So, cancer bladder was first noted in man in aniline industry 1895. In most recent years it was noted in rubber industry. It is now known that bladder cancer is caused by aromatic amines which are metabolized in the body and excreted in the urine. The industries associated with bladder cancer are dye stuff, dyeing industry, rubber, gas, and electric cable industry. The following have been mentioned as possible bladder carcinogen: beta naphthalamines, benzidine, para-amino diphenyl, auramine, and magenta. Now we have leukemia. Exposure to benzoyl, Roentgen rays, and radioactive substances give rise to leukemia. Benzoyl is a dangerous chemical, okay, and is used as a solvent in many industries. Then leukemia may appear long after exposure has ceased. The characteristic of occupational cancer are they appear after prolonged exposure. काफ़ी लंबे समय से exposure होता है तब cancer होता है. The period between exposure and development of the disease may be as long as 10 to 25 years. Then the disease may develop even after the cessation of exposure. The average age of incidence is earlier than that of the cancer in general. The location of tumor is remarkably constant in any one occupation. Personal hygiene is very important in prevention of occupational cancer. So, control of industrial cancer. The control measure comprises the following. First is elimination of or control of industrial carcinogen. Technical measures like exclusion of the carcinogen from the industry, well designed building or machinery, closed systems of production. Then, second is mechanical examination. Medical examination, sorry. Third is inspection of factories. Fourth is notification. Fifth is licensing of establishment. Sixth is personal hygiene measure. Seventh is education of the worker and management. Eighth is research. Hi Shashank. So, occupational dermatitis. ऑक्यूपेशन से डर्माटाइटिस बहुत कॉमन है, मतलब इन्फ्लामेशन ऑफ द स्किन, ये बहुत कॉमन है. आइए देखते हैं कि कौन से ऑक्यूपेशन से इन्फ्लामेशन ऑफ द स्किन होता है. So, occupational dermatitis is a big health problem in many industries. The causes may be physical, heat, cold, moisture, friction, pressure, X-ray, other rays. Chemical हो सकता है, acid, alkali, dye, solvent, grease, far, pitch, chlorinated phenol, etc. Biological हो सकता है, living agents such as virus, bacteria, fungi and other parasites. प्लांट प्रोडक्ट हो सकता है जैसे लीव्स, वेजिटेबल्स, फ्रूट, फ्लावर, वेजिटेबल डस्ट. ये सारे ऑक्यूपेशनल डर्माटाइटिस के कारण हो सकते. द डर्माटाइटिस प्रोड्यूसिंग एजेंट आर फर्दर क्लासिफाइड इनटू फर्स्ट प्राइमरी irritants and second is sensitizing substance. तो प्राइमरी इरिटेंट्स क्या होता है? एसिड, एल्कलीज, डाइज, सॉल्वेंट एक्सेट्रा. Causes dermatitis in workers exposed in sufficient concentration for a long enough period of time. On the other hand, allergic dermatitis occurs only in a small percentage of cases due to sensitization of the skin. So prevention क्या है? तो occupational dermatitis is largely preventable if proper control measures are adopted. Pre-selection. The worker should be medically examined before employment, and those with an established or suspected dermatitis or who have a known predisposition to skin disease should be kept away from the job involving a skin hazard. ठीक है. Then we have pre-selection, then we have protection. The worker should be given adequate protection against the direct contact by protective clothing, long leather gloves, aprons and boots. The protective clothing should be frequently washed and kept in good order. There are also what are known as barrier cream, which must be used regularly and correctly. There is no barrier cream so far invented which will prevent dermatitis in all occupations. Then we have personal hygiene. There should be available a plentiful supply of warm water, soap, and towel. Workers should be encouraged and educated to make frequent use of these facilities. Adequate washing facilities in industries are a statutory obligation under the Factory Act. Then we have periodic inspection. There should be a periodic medical checkup for all the workers for early detection and treatment of occupational dermatitis. If necessary, the affected worker may have To be transferred to a job not exposing him to risk. The worker should be educated to report any skin irritation, no matter how mild or insignificant. Then we have radiation hazard. ठीक है. A number of industries use radium and other radioactive substances जैसे कि painting or luminous dials for watches and other instruments. Manufacture of radioactive paints. Exposure to radium also occurs in mining of radioactive ores, monoxide sand workers, handling of other products. ठीक है. So X-ray are used both in medicine and industry. Exposure to ultraviolet rays occurs in arc and other electric welding processes. Infrared rays are produced in welding, okay, and glass blowing and foundry work and other processing where metals and glass are heated and in the molten state. And in heating and drying of painted and lacquered object. So the effect of radiation. Occupational hazard due to ionizing radiation may be acute burn, dermatitis, blood dyscrasias. Chronic exposure may lead to malignancies, genetic effect. Lung cancer may develop in miners working in uranium mine due to inhalation of radioactive dust. So preventive measures. Inhalation, swallowing or direct contact with the skin should be avoided. In case of X-rays, shielding should be used of such thickness and of such material as to reduce the exposure below allowance exposure. The employees should be monitored at interval not exceeding 6 months by the use of film badge or pocket electrometer devices. Suitable protective clothing to prevent contact with harmful material should be used. Adequate ventilation of workplace is necessary to prevent inhalation of harmful gases and dusts. Replacement and periodic examination of the worker should be done every 2 months. If harmful effects are found, employees should be transferred to work not involving exposure of the radiation. Pregnant women should not be allowed to work in places where there is continuous exposure. Now we have occupational hazard of agricultural worker. एग्रीकल्चर यानी कि जो धान रोपते हैं उनको क्या ऑक्यूपेशनल हजार्ड हो जाता है. लेट्स सी हम लोग कितने देर से पढ़ रहे हैं. 1 मिनट 28 मिनट्स ओनली. एटलीस्ट 1 घंटे का तो 1 घंटे का तो वीडियो बनाऊंगी ना. ओ माय गॉड मेरा मोबाइल जो है ना वो स्टक हो गया. Hello, is anyone there? Is anyone there and studying with me? Hi, is anyone there? Yeah, Shashank, you're there? Yeah. You know what? Let's do this. There's just one more page. Yeah, 2 more pages. I'll read 2 more pages, then I'll take a break. and then I'll again come back and read the rest. So जो एग्रीकल्चरल वर्कर्स होते हैं उनको क्या प्रॉब्लम आता है ये देख लेते हैं. So, occupational hazard of agricultural workers. So, occupational health in agriculture sector is a new concept. From the standpoint of capital investment and number of persons employed, agriculture may be termed as big industry. Agricultural workers have a multitude of health problems. The fact, which is often forgotten because of the widespread misconception that occupational health is mainly concerned with industries and industrialized countries. Uh, the health problem of workers in agriculture may be enumerated as below. अच्छा हमारा देश तो ज़्यादातर एग्रीकल्चरल है, सो ये जानना हमें ज़रूरी है. जूनोटिक डिजीज़. हाय मम्मी. तो जूनोटिक डिजीज़ होता है एग्रीकल्चरल वर्कर्स को. द क्लोज कॉन्टैक्ट ऑफ द एग्रीकल्चरल वर्कर विथ एनिमल और their product increases the likelihood of contracting certain zoonotic diseases such as brucellosis, anthrax, leptospirosis, tetanus, tuberculosis, bovine Q fever, right? The extent of the occupational occurrence of these diseases in most part of the world is not known. Then accidents. Agricultural accidents are becoming more frequent even in developing countries as a result of increased use of agricultural machineries. Insect and snake bites are an additional health problem in India. Toxic hazard क्या होता है? Chemicals are being used increasingly in agriculture, either as fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides. Agricultural workers are exposed to toxic hazards from these chemicals. Associated factors such as malnourishment, parasite infestation may increase susceptibility to poisoning to relatively low level of exposure. Then physical hazard क्या है? So the agricultural worker may be exposed to extremes of climatic conditions such as temperature, humidity, solar radiation, which may impose additional stresses upon him. He may also have to tolerate excessive noise and vibrations, inadequate ventilation, and the necessary working uncomfortable position for long period of hours. Then respiratory diseases, exposure to dust of grain, rice husks, coconut fibers, tea, tobacco, cotton, hay, and wood are common where these products are grown. The resulting disease, Bicinosis, bagasosis, farmers' lung occupational asthma appears to be widespread. Accidents in industries. अब हो गया फार्मर्स का, हो गया. अब इंडस्ट्री में देखते हैं. इंडस्ट्रीज़ में एक्सीडेंट बहुत होते हैं ना, वो देख लेते हैं. एक्सीडेंट्स आर कॉमन फीचर इन मोस्ट इंडस्ट्रीज. इनफैक्ट सम इंडस्ट्रीज आर नोन फॉर एक्सीडेंट्स जैसे कि कोल एंड अदर माइनिंग इंडस्ट्रीज, क्वारीज, कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्क. It was estimated that nearly 3 million man days are lost yearly in India because of accident. To the worker, the loss is in the terms of his wages apart from human suffering. To the industry, it is in the terms of compensation costs, providing of medical care, lowering morale, and lowered production and damage to machinery and goods. To the nation, in the terms of lost production. Causes क्या होता है? The causes of accidents are several, may be grouped under two headings: human and environmental. ठीक है. एक्सीडेंट जो होता है वो ह्यूमन की वजह से हो सकते हैं, एनवायरमेंटल की वजह से हो सकता है. तो ह्यूमन फैक्टर क्या है? मोस्ट authorities consider human factor much more important than environmental factor in accident causation, the former being responsible for 85% of all the accidents. These factors are: first is physical. So the physical capability of the worker may not meet the job requirement. His visual acuity may be inadequate. His hearing may be inadequate. Second क्या है? Physiological factors. Sex. Studies have shown that women are known to have less accident. हैं? ज़्यादा तुम लोग फैक्ट्री इंडस्ट्री से वुमेन को उठा के फेंक देते हो, मेन का ज़्यादा एक्सीडेंट होता है. स्टडीज हैव शोन दैट वुमेन आर नोन टू हैव लेस एक्सीडेंट्स देन मेन. तो हर चीज़ में वुमेन बदनाम है. और अच्छा, पर मेन ज़्यादा इंडस्ट्री में है भी, इसीलिए भी हो सकता है डेटा के हिसाब से. डूइंग competitive jobs. In a study from Physiological and Industrial Hygiene section of All India Institute of Hygiene and Public Health, Kolkata, the ratio was 5 is to 24 reportable accidents in Bengal. ए राम, 5 वुमेन को लगता है तो 24 मेन को चोट लगता है. मेन जो है औरतों को देखते होंगे इसलिए चोट लग जाता है. दूसरा क्या है, एज. तो एज क्या है, यंगर एजेस आर नोन टू बी इन्वॉल्व मोर इन एक्सीडेंट. ठीक है, जो जवान लोग होते हैं वो लोग को ज़्यादा एक्सीडेंट होता है दैन द ओल्डर एज ग्रुप्स. द वेरी ओल्ड अगेन आर मोर प्रोन टू एक्सीडेंट्स. दैन टाइम. टाइम क्या है, एक्सीडेंट्स आर मिनिमम एट द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द डे एंड इंक्रीजेस ग्रेजुअली एज fatigue set in. Experience. So approximately 50% of the employee had accident in their first 6 months of employment. ठीक है, 23% in the next 6 months and only 3% in the subsequent 3% subsequently in certain industrial undertaking. Thus, experience is an important factor in the occurrence of accident. Working hours. Now, an increase in accident is found whenever the daily or weekly working hour increases. देन साइकोलॉजिकल हो जाएगा. पहले था फिजिकल, दिस वॉज फिजियोलॉजिकल, देन दिस इज साइकोलॉजिकल. देर आर मेंटल फैक्टर्स दैट माइट इन्वॉल्व अ पर्सन इन एक्सीडेंट. पहला केयरलेसनेस, इनअटेंटिवनेस, ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस, स्लो सेरिब्रेशन, ignorance, inexperience, emotional stress, accidental proneness. Psychological factors may appear to be more important factor than physiological factor. Now what was A? A was human factor. ये सारे human factors थे. अब हम लोग देखेंगे क्या, environmental factor. So environmental factor, amongst the environmental factor known to influence the incidence of accident are the temperature, poor illumination, humidity, noise, unsafe machines. Causes directly attributing to unsafe machines account for 10 to 20% of all the accidents. Then we have prevention. Accident prevention is a fascinating problem. Studies have shown that 98% of all the accidents are preventable. The principle of accident prevention are adequate pre-placement examination. पहले फैक्ट्री में लेने से पहले प्री प्लेसमेंट एग्जामिनेशन करवाओ, एडिक्वेट जॉब ट्रेनिंग दो, then continuing education, ensuring safe working environment, establishment of a safety department in the organization under competent safety engineering, periodic survey for finding out hazards, carefully reporting, maintenance of record and publicity. Then sickness abstinence क्या होता है? So ओके, ये पार्ट पढ़ लेते हैं. sickness absenteeism. So sickness absence is an important health problem in industry. It may seriously impede production with serious cost repercussion both directly as well as indirectly. As the production techniques become more sophisticated, absenteeism tends to increase the adverse repercussion. Absenteeism is a useful index in industry to assess the state of health of worker and their physical, mental and social well-being. Incidence. India has a working force of about 30 million in registered factories. Research undertaken by the National Productivity Council into absenteeism shows a marked increase from about 8 to 13% in the early 1950s to around 15 to 20% in or even more in recent years. The rate of absenteeism was reported to be around 8 to 10 days per head per year. 10 दिन भी नहीं एब्सेंट हो सकते हैं हम लोग। तो 10 दिन यहाँ पे एक महीना में एब्सेंट होते हैं, 20 दिन जाते हैं, 10 दिन एब्सेंट होते हैं। लोग एक साल में भी 10 दिन नहीं एब्सेंट हो सकते। दैट्स वेरी सैड। दैट इज़ अ वेरी सैड रियलिटी ऑफ लाइफ। ओ माई गॉड। देन कॉजेज़ क्या है? सो द कॉजेज़ ऑफ सिकनेस एब्सेंटिज्म मे नॉट बी एंटायरली ड्यू टू सिकनेस। इकोनॉमिक कॉजेशन हो सकता है। स्टडीज़ हैव शोन दैट इफ़ द वर्कर इज़ एंटाइटल्ड टू सिक लिव विथ पे, सिक लीव विथ पे अगर एंटाइटल्ड है, he tends to avail of this privilege by reporting sick. It is so well remarked that in industries the workers declare themselves fit or unfit for work at their choice. Then social causation है. This is certain social factors appears to influence sickness absenteeism in India. There are social and family obligations such as wedding, festivals, repair and maintenance of ancestral house, and similar other causations. Some of the workers who come from rural area go back to their village for short or long period during sowing and harvest season. Medical cause हो सकता है, क्या है? About 10% of the days lost were um, found to be due to occupational accidents. Respiratory and alimentary illness जो होता है have also been found to be an important cause. So D क्या है? नॉन ऑक्यूपेशनल कॉज क्या है? Certain non-occupational causes such as nutritional disorder, alcoholism, drug addiction have also been found to be responsible for sickness absenteeism. Prevention कैसे करेंगे? The prevention reduction of sickness absenteeism would result in better utilization of resource and maximizing the production. The method for reducing sickness absenteeism include good factory management and practices, adequate pre-placement examination, good health relation and application of ergonomics. Now health problem due to industrialization होने से क्या क्या health problem आता है? So industrialization implies the transformation of a peasant society into a community dependent upon the industries. ठीक है. It involves individuals and collective technical skill for the manufacture of particular good through highly specialized processes. There is division of work under the same roof which emphasizes on mass production and community profit. In short, industrialization means a social economic revolution in the culture of nation. Any such revolution is bound to carry with it some associated hazards. तो वो hazards क्या है हम लोग देख लेते हैं. So the community health problem arising out of industrialization may be enumerated as follows. Environmental sanitation problem. क्या है एनवायरमेंटल सैनिटेशन प्रॉब्लम? पहला है हाउसिंग. अ राइज इन द नंबर ऑफ स्लम्स इन सैनिटरी ड्वेलिंग्स इज़ वन ऑफ द चीफ प्रॉब्लम इन ऑल इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया. हमारे जमशेदपुर में नहीं है, पता है? हमारा जमशेदपुर सबसे बड़ा इंडस्ट्रियलाइज्ड एरिया है. और टाटा जी ने पता है क्या किया? पूरे जमशेदपुर में क्वार्टर्स बना दिया, टाटा का क्वार्टर. तो ऐसा कोई स्लम और ये सब एरिया नहीं है. सारे लोग टाटा के क्वार्टर में रहते हैं. इवन हम लोग भी टाटा के क्वार्टर ही में रहते हैं. इट्स सच अ ब्यूटीफुल प्लेस नाउ. सो जैसे ही इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन वाली जगह में हाउसिंग का सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम होता है कि राइज इन द नंबर ऑफ स्लम्स एंड इन sanitary dwelling is one of the chief problem in all industrialized area due to migration of the people from countryside for employment. The effect of substandard housing on the health of the population is discussed elsewhere in detail. Then we have water pollution. सो वाटर पोल्यूशन भी नहीं है यहाँ पे. वाटर का भी सिस्टम बहुत सही है अपना. नदी वादी सब बहुत साफ़ रहता है. Water pollution is one of the tragic aftermath of rapid industrialization due to discharge of industrial water without treatment into water course. Industrial waters may contain acid, alkali, oil, and other organic and inorganic chemicals, some of which may be toxic, synthetic detergents, radioactive substances. It requires legal, administrative, and technical measures to deal with this situation. Pollution control measures should be instituted in the planning stage itself in the process of um, industrialization. Then we have air pollution. So air pollution में क्या है? This is an important problem in industrialized एरिया. हाँ, एयर पोल्यूशन का प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है हमें, विच मे हैव एन एडवर्स इफेक्ट ऑन द हेल्थ ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन. एयर पोल्यूशन इज ड्यू टू द डिस्चार्ज ऑफ टॉक्सिक फ्यूम्स, गैसेस, स्मोक, डस्ट इन टू द एटमोसफेयर. इट रिक्वायर्स प्रॉपर टाउन प्लानिंग एंड जोनिंग to eliminate this hazard. Then we have sewage disposal. Sewage disposal में क्या है? There is bound to be pressure on the existing sanitation services if proper planning is not undertaken before locating industries. Lack of facilities for the disposal of sewage leads to the pollution of water supply, contamination of soil with parasites and their ova. कम्युनिकेबल डिजीज़. ठीक है, कम्युनिकेबल डिजीज़ क्या है? द मेन प्रॉब्लम इन इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया आर टीबी. हाँ, इधर बहुत है. वेनरल डिजीज़, STI, मेरे को नहीं पता यहाँ पे है कि नहीं. फूड एंड वाटर बॉर्न इन्फेक्शन. There are, in addition to the specific disease associated with specific industries, industrial areas without proper sewage disposal have become a hotbed for filariasis owing to the breeding of mosquito vector in contaminated water. Then we have food sanitation. The standard of food sanitation are bound to be lowered due to industrialization. फूड का सैनिटेशन लोअर हो जाएगा इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन की वजह से इफ़ प्रॉपर प्रिकॉशंस आर नॉट टेकन. फूड बॉर्न इन्फेक्शंस सच एज टाइफॉइड फीवर, वायरल हेपेटाइटिस आर ऑल टू कॉमन इन इंडिया. Then we have mental health. So mental health problems are due to altered living condition. People are removed from the warmth of village community life and are planted in an alien environment which calls for certain adjustment. Failure of adjustment leads to mental illness, psychoneurosis, behavior disorder, delinquency, etc. Accidents are a public health problem in industrialized areas due to congestion, vehicular traffic, and increased tempo of life. These accidents are in addition to those that occur in the factories. Social problems: alcoholism, drug addiction, gambling, prostitution, increased divorce, breakup, home, juvenile delinquency, higher incidence of crime, and some of the social problem due to industrialization. Morbidity and mortality. Vital statistical rates indicate that industrial areas are characterized by high morbidity and mortality from certain diseases. For example, the incidence of chronic bronchitis and lung cancer is higher in industrialized area than in rural area. The crude death rate of and infant mortality rate tends to be high in industrialized area. India has a special problem due to industrialization. It is because the level of public health is generally low. The average expectation of life is less than that in industrially advanced countries. Measure for health protection of worker. चलो अब मेज़र पढ़ लेते हैं. मैं बता दूँ क्या क्या मेज़र होता है, टॉपिक्स में बता दूँ. न्यूट्रिशन होता है, ठीक है. ये जो वर्कर होते हैं ना, उनका न्यूट्रिशन का ख्याल रखना पड़ता है. कम्युनिकेबल डिजीज़ कंट्रोल का, इन्वायरमेंटल सैनिटेशन का, मेंटल हेल्थ का, उनके मेजर फॉर वुमेन एंड चिल्ड्रन, देन हेल्थ एजुकेशन देना पड़ता है, फैमिली प्लानिंग देखना पड़ता है, ठीक है। बस ये 7 उनका मेजर्स है। मैं सातों पढ़ लेती हूँ। ये 7 पढ़ने के बाद ना मैं ब्रेक लूँगी। मेडिकल मेजर, इंजीनियरिंग मेजर, ये सब बाद में पढ़ना है। हाँ, बाद में बहुत है। अच्छा, लेट्स सी। तो मेजर फॉर हेल्थ प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ वर्कर क्या है? सो द एम ऑफ ऑक्यूपेशनल हेल्थ इज द प्रमोशन एंड मेंटेनेंस ऑफ the highest degree of physical, mental, and social well-being of workers in all occupation. The measure for the general health protection of worker was the subject of discussion by ILO WHO Committee on Occupational Health in 1953. The committee recommended the following. फर्स्ट वन इज़ न्यूट्रिशन। तो न्यूट्रिशन के बारे में क्या बोलते हैं? द इन मेनी डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज माल नरिशमेंट इज़ एन इम्पॉर्टेंट फैक्टर कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटिंग टू द पुअर हेल्थ अमंग वर्कर्स एंड low work output. Malnourishment may also affect the metabolism of toxic agent and also the tolerance mechanism. Under the Indian Factory Act, it is obligatory on the part of the industrial establishment to provide a canteen where the number of employees exceed 250. अगर 250 से ज़्यादा एम्प्लॉय हो गया तो एक कैंटीन तो प्रोवाइड करना ही पड़ेगा। द एम इज़ टू प्रोवाइड बैलेंस्ड डाइट और स्नैक्स at reasonable cost under sanitary control. It is important to अरे ये सैनिटरी कंट्रोल में आता है, खाना को सही प्राइस में provide karna, it comes under sanitary control. It is important to combine this action with education of the workers on the value of balanced diet. If the worker carries his own lunch to work, provision should be made for a safe and uncontaminated place to store the food before it is eaten to avoid spoil may be eaten in sanitary surrounding. Now we have communicable disease control. So the industry provides an excellent opportunity for early diagnosis, treatment, and prevention and rehabilitation. It is a general objective everywhere to detect cases of communicable disease and to render them non-infectious to others by treatment or removal of the working environment or both. The communicable disease of special importance in India are tuberculosis, typhoid fever, viral hepatitis, amoebiasis, intestinal parasite, malaria, and STD. There should be an adequate immunization program against preventable diseases, communicable diseases, anthrax, undulent fever, Q fever are examples of communicable disease which may be of occupational origin. Their control calls for special sanitary measures in the handling or of working material and substances. Environmental sanitation. So within the industrial establishment, the following needs attention for the prevention of spread of communicable disease by water, food, and other means. Water supply. So water supply के बारे में क्या बोल रहा है? Sufficient supply of wholesome drinking water is one of the basic requirement in all the industrial establishment. The common glass um, tumbler for drinking water should be abandoned as it spreads infection. Installation of drinking water fountains at convenient points should be encouraged. Food. So if food is sold, its sanitary preparation, storage and handling are essential. ठीक है. Education of food handlers and other measures may be necessary to prevent outbreak of gastrointestinal disease. Toilet. There should be sufficient number of latrines and urinals, or the sanitary type separate for males and females, conveniently situated. It is recommended that there should be at least one sanitary convenience for every 25 employee, male and female separate, for the first 100 employees, and after one and thereafter one for every 50. Garbage and waste disposal should be such to avoid the breeding of flies and vermins. Then we have general plant cleanliness. So the wall, ceiling, and passage should be painted with water washable paint, repainted at least once in 3 years, and washed at least once in every 6 months. The dust which settles down on the floor and machinery should be promptly removed by vacuum cleaner or by wetting agent before it is redistributed into the atmosphere by vibrations of the machineries or buildings. A high standard of general cleanliness is one of the fundamentals of accident prevention. It also contributes to the efficiency and high morale of the workers. Then we have sufficient space. शशांक तुम ये नहीं कर रहे हो, मैसेज नहीं कर रहे हो. आर यू लिसनिंग और नॉट? सफिशेंट स्पेस में क्या है कि सफिशेंट फ्लोर स्पेस, क्यूबिक स्पेस आर सब is essential to prevent not only respiratory infection but also to ensure a comfortable working environment. The recommended standard is minimum of 500 cubic feet space for every worker space more than 14 feet and above the floor level not to be taken into consideration. Then we have lightning. So the result of poor industrial illumination are workers' eye fatigue, increased incidence, decreased production, and more rejection of finished products. So furthermore, defective illumination over a long period of time may result in permanent impairment of the vision. There should be sufficient and suitable lighting, natural and artificial or both, in every part of the factory where workers are working or passing through. The standard of illumination for different kinds of work have been set out. For precision work for high degree of accuracy may require 50 to 75 foot candles, where people work regularly. 6 to 12 foot candle may be sufficient. Illumination in corridors and passengers should be at least 0.5 foot candles. Now ventilation and temperature का क्या है कि poor ventilation not only increases the chances of infection from person to person but also affects the mental and physical efficiency of the worker. Proper ventilation is also needed for the control of noxious vapors, fumes, dust, and prevention of fatigue and industrial accidents. Effective and suitable provision should be made for maintaining adequate ventilation by circulation of fresh air in every workroom and such a temperature which will secure to work therein reasonable condition to comfort and to prevent injury to health. Protection against hazard. There should be adequate environmental control designed to protect the workers against exposure to dust, fumes, and other toxic hazards. Housing. There is usually an adequate shortage of housing in industrial areas. Most workers come from rural area. The housing workers near a plant must be correlated to essential community amenities and to social and sanitary facilities. Town planning and zoning are highly desirable. Then mental health. To the objective of occupational health services, not only to keep the workers physically healthy but mentally and psychologically stable. The industrial workers are susceptible to the effect of love, recognition, rejection, job satisfaction, reward. And discipline. The master servant era is now disappearing from industries. The workers, individually and collectively, likely to be recognized, to have measure of control over their own affairs, and like to have an opportunity to develop skills appropriate of their individual capacity. The goal of mental health in industries are to promote health and happiness of the worker, to detect signs of emotional stress and strain, to secure relief of stress and strain whenever possible, and the treatment of employees suffering from mental illness, and the rehabilitation of those who become ill. हे शशांक, तुम्हारा मैसेज नहीं आ रहा है. ओ माय गॉड, तुमने मैसेज किया और मैंने एक भी. ओ माय गॉड, तुमने कितना सारा मैसेज किया है. हाय. नहीं आ रहा था, पता नहीं क्यों बीच बीच में बंद कर देता है. फिर से करो. मेज़र फॉर वुमेन एंड चिल्ड्रन. अरे मैं इतना ही तक बस पढ़ूंगी, इतना तक, उसके बाद रख रही हूँ. बस थोड़ा सा और पढ़ के इतू सा, और फिर उसके बाद आई एम गोइंग टू स्लीप फॉर 1 hour. Measure for women and children. So women worker required social protection because the developing embryo may be more susceptible to noxious agents that are exposed to mother. Example, in the case of methyl mercury poisoning, female may be less suited for some work tasks than men. Pregnancy may decrease the capacity to cope with many work factors. Women tend to feed themselves less substantially than men, and also restrict their nourishment in different economic substances. The infant mortality is higher amongst children of women employed in industrial works. The government has notified the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act 2007 on 28 March 2017, and the provision of Amendment Act has come into force with the effect 1st April 2017. The following type of protections are available for women workers in India. पहला क्या है? Expected mother are given maternity leave for 26 weeks, for which up to 8 weeks precedes the expected date of confinement. During this period, they are allowed maternity benefit, which in a cash payment under the ESI Act 1948. After 2 children, दो बच्चे के बाद, the duration of paid maternity leave shall be 12 week. केवल दो बच्चों के बाद 12 week हो जाता है. 6 week pre and 6 week post delivery. Then provision of free antenatal, natal and postnatal services. ये होना चाहिए. फैक्ट्री एक्ट सेक्शन 66 प्रोहिबिट नाइट वर्क बिटवीन 7 PM और 6 AM. औरतों को नहीं करवाना है. सेक्शन 34 prohibits carrying of excessive weight beyond the certain schedule which has been laid down. The Indian Mine Act prohibit work underground. Maternity Benefit Act 2017 provides for creches in factories where more than 50 women are employed, and also prohibits the employment of women and children in certain dangerous occupations. Regarding protection of children, the Constitution of India declared no child below the age of 14 shall be employed to work in any factory or mine or engaged in any other hazardous employment. Chapter 3. Now, health education. So मुझे पता नहीं क्यों ऐसा लग रहा है कि ये चैप्टर नहीं आ रहा है। वो नहीं, ये तो आ रहा है, ये आ रहा है, क्योंकि मैंने एक्चुअल चीज़ अभी तक पढ़ा नहीं है, इसलिए मेरे को लग रहा है मेन यहाँ से शुरू होगा ये चैप्टर। कहाँ से? ईएसआई वाले से। और ईएसआई वाला पता है कहाँ शुरू होगा? ये पूरा पढ़ लेंगे ना, इसके बाद यहाँ से फैक्ट्री एक्ट शुरू होगा और ईएसआई शुरू होगा। यही दो है जो कि इम्पोर्टेंट है हमारे लिए, बाकी और कुछ नहीं इम्पोर्टेंट है। और यही दो मेरा बचा हुआ है, ठीक है। इसको हम खाना खाने के बाद ही पढ़ेंगे। हेल्थ एजुकेशन क्या है? हेल्थ एजुकेशन इज़ अ बेसिक हेल्थ नीड. It is an important health promotion measure. Health education is the industrial setting. In the industrial setting, should be envisaged at all levels: the management, visitory staff, workers, trade union, and community. The content varies from matter of personal hygiene and protection of participation of workers in the planning and operation of the total health services program in industries. So family planning क्या है? There is now recognized a decisive factor for the quality of life, and this applies to industrial workers also. The worker must adopt the small family norm. So prevention of occupational disease. The various measures for prevention of occupational disease may be grouped under three heads: medical, इंजीनियरिंग एंड स्टैच्यूटरी या फिर लेजिस्लेटिव। लेजिस्लेटिव में ही आएगा फैक्ट्री वाला और ईएसआई वाला। सो वी विल रीड इट बाद में, ठीक है। प्रिवेंशन ऑफ ऑक्यूपेशनल डिजीज़ यही सबसे ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, विल रीड बाद में। बाय, हो गया हमारा।